I'm Michael Lower from the Faculty of Law at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. In a short series of videos, I'll explain the idea of the community of inquiry and why the community of inquiry is a teaching philosophy that's ideally suited for higher education. In this video, I explain the essential features of a community of inquiry. The community of inquiry approach to teaching and learning involves the creation of a teaching and learning environment that's designed and runs upon social constructivist principles. Students learn by working in small groups on issues that are of interest to them. Students learn through collaborative discourse by talking to each other. Students learn under the guidance of a teacher, but if the community of inquiry works well, they also teach each other. Normally, the community of inquiry will be asked to produce some artifact, such as a blog post, a podcast, a video, a presentation, or an article to publish the work that they've done and their findings. Here are a couple of definitions of a community of inquiry. Just take a few seconds to read them. There are common themes. The inquiry is the collective task of the group. The group has an educational purpose to construct new meaning, new and better understandings. The group achieves its task through carefully structured dialogue. The community of inquiry is like a return to the historical idea of the university. Students learn by participating in discussions with more experienced scholars. This photo shows a tutorial. There's a teacher and two students. It seems from the photo that they are actively engaged in discussion, in trying to explore some research question. Scholars like Ron Barnett argue that the essence of higher education is this collaborative search for understanding. Students learn to express opinions, give reasons for them, and then to improve their ideas by getting feedback from their teachers and peers. Each member of a community of inquiry contributes ideas to the discussion, giving reasons for their opinion. These reasons will be based on the sources and methods used by experts in the relevant discipline. If the students are lawyers, for example, they'll make use of relevant cases and statutes, journal articles, and other authoritative sources as a source of ideas and of authority for their views. The other members of the group listen respectfully to these ideas, but also seek clarification and suggest ways in which opinions and ideas are open to improvement. They do this in a civilized way, but feeling that they have a duty to build on and improve the ideas that they're presented with when that's necessary. The active, knowledge-building approach of the community of inquiry can be contrasted with what has been described as the delivery van approach. In the delivery van approach, the aim is simply for the teacher to deliver pre-packaged knowledge for students to take away and recall at exam time. This approach promotes surface learning. Students memorize facts to pass the exam. They never come to a deep, expert-like view of the subject. Lippmann describes the effect of the delivery van approach in this quote. I'll let you read it for yourself. The community of inquiry approach has students work together to build knowledge and understanding. Ideas and theory are living and generate new ideas and new theories. In the delivery van approach, knowledge is dead. Students are invited not to work with it, but simply to accept it as it is and to memorize it. The community of inquiry approach involves students becoming researchers. Look at this quote from an article about the use of communities of inquiry in undergraduate history education in Australia. Students are no longer passive spectators of the research work that goes on in universities. Rather, they're active participants in that research work. Chang describes a design that engages undergraduate students in research projects. In his History of Science class, each student carried out an independent research project within a common theme, the history of the chemical element chlorine. The students were guided by the teacher, but took ownership of their research projects. The work produced by the students was handed down to students who took the course in the next year. The second generation of students had to improve the work that had already been done. The plan was to collect the projects together and publish them as an academic text. The work of each student was to be a chapter of this book. Chang describes his approach as a directed community model of research teaching integration. The teacher guides students on research methods and the norms and customs of academia. Chang suggests that the directed community model embodies the ideas that learning is doing, not merely practice for something else that is real. There's continuity between students and experts, and originality is relative. He told his students that their ideas were original if they were new to him. He is, after all, an expert in the field. Good procedures for conducting inquiry are central to the communities of inquiry approach. They provide a model of critical inquiry. From an educational perspective, it's important to explain the community of inquiry process to the students who are going to work in the community. This gives students a mental model of what critical thought looks like. They then apply that model in their work with the community of inquiry. Students can internalize this model and use it in their own learning and to reflect on their own strengths and weaknesses as critical thinkers. One group of educational researchers has tried to capture the community of inquiry process in a model called the practical inquiry model. The work of the community of inquiry begins with a triggering event. Students find a research question. This might be some puzzle that they've come across in their studies, or some real-world problem that's relevant to the course. The students choose the problem for themselves. Because it's their problem, something that interests them, they bring an energy and enthusiasm to their work. Ideally, it will also be of interest to other scholars and professionals, or be of interest to the general public. The work of the community of inquiry should be a contribution to public knowledge about the subject. The next phase of the practical inquiry model is the exploration phase. This is a brainstorming phase where students look at knowledge sources that are authoritative in their discipline. Law students, for example, would study relevant cases and journal articles for knowledge and ideas that help them to understand and explore the subject. They base their ideas on the same knowledge foundations as do other scholars working in the discipline. Then there's an integration phase. This is a convergent phase. Here, the community of inquiry starts to pull together all of the knowledge and ideas that it generated in the exploration phase to create their own knowledge and understanding. It's all brought together in the blog post, podcast, or video, or other work that the students decided to produce. The need to produce this work forces the students to reach a conclusion that's the collective conclusion of the group. Finally, there's the resolution phase. This is where the group goes public with their ideas. Like other scholars, the community of inquiry puts its ideas out there for critique by other scholars working in the field. The work submitted to a teacher for comment. It might be presented to other students in a conference. If it's a blog post, it can be posted on a blog for the world to see. Students get feedback that helps them to improve their ideas. The community of inquiry might not work its way through the practical inquiry model in a linear way. It might decide to reframe its research question, the triggering event. After it's worked on the problem for a while, it might see that there's a better way of formulating the problem. It might move backwards and forwards between the exploration and integration phases. Difficulties in the integration phase or dissatisfaction with the conclusion might prompt the students to look for new knowledge sources, to read more cases or articles, or read the same cases or articles more carefully. Still, the practical inquiry model provides a useful way of visualizing the process of scholarly critical inquiry, both for the teacher and for the student. This video introduced the idea of the community of inquiry. Later videos will give practical examples of how this approach has been implemented in legal education. We'll also look in greater detail at the educational benefits of the community of inquiry.